What is going on? I want to welcome you from F-Port for today, Wednesday, October 26th. I'm your host, Sean Murphy, alongside my guy, Troy Sergey. Troy, good to see you, my friend. It was really fun hanging out and being in person, watching opening night for Pistons Magic with you last week, man. That was an awesome experience. How are you feeling off of that high?
Yeah, that was a lot of fun Wednesday night, Sean. Obviously, it's great seeing you again and so many Pistons fans. I think, what was it, 99% of LCA was sold out. So that was
Hmm.
great to see. And it was a loud crowd, too. It was an exciting crowd. It was a crowd that was excited to see the Pistons play again. It's been, what, 4 or 5 months now. And we're just really excited as Pistons fans, I think, to see what's going on in Detroit. And I think the city wanted to see what this team is capable of doing. And right off the gates, trailed a little bit in the beginning, but we got to see great work from Ivy, great work from Cade, really Sadiq as well. I mean, and then Isaiah Stewart hit that shot at the end, and then Mr. 44 Bojan had a great game as well. So it was a lot of fun stuff. But it was just so good being in the arena, so good being around other Pistons
Well,
fans,
the
and
cool
it was a
thing was
game.
all the people that came up to us and were like
Yeah,
saying that they were big fans of the pod and big fans
yeah.
of us.
Shout
So
out to all
appreciate
those
that.
people, and
Shout
then
out to all the fans.
Paulo too was great to see in person. So
Oh, Apollo is legit. Yeah, we got to see a pretty historic debut. We'll talk about that in a minute, but more importantly, speaking of historic, we are breaking ground here, man. Our first three-time guest, our longest running guest, my guy. It's got to be Cone, man. One of my favorite guys on the internet, one of my favorite people in general, dude. So good to see you, Cone from Enjoy Basketball, doing streams on Bleacher Report. My guy is killing it over here, man, dude. Seriously,
Appreciate it,
man.
man. Appreciate y'all having me on again. It's always a good time to be on here on the pod. Excited to talk some hoops as always because I'd never stop talking about it. Like you said, Bleacher Report here, Enjoy Basketball, YouTube. If you can't tell, I like basketball a little bit, so it's good to be back. That's awesome that y'all got to go see the Pistons that debut. I'm sure it was great to see Paolo and everything.
Yeah.
I was just telling y'all before the pod that for those of you that don't know, I'm up in New York right now. And so I want to go see the Thunder when they come here. Ticket prices are ridiculous. And I'm going to probably see them against the Knicks, which isn't as fun as seeing Paolo Banchero make his debut. But, it would be really fun to see Chet Holmgren play, but I'm not allowed to have anything nice. So he's not going to play this year. And Josh Giddey and Shea are already dealing with injuries, man. Life's not going great in terms of Thunderness.
Yeah.
If that's a word I can use, I guess, that I made up on the spot.
Yeah. I mean, Cone, you know me, and Troy, you can attest to this. I have been the biggest Chet Holmgren fan for the longest time. And so, you and I were messaging quite a bit throughout the draft process. And when the Thunder ended up with Chet, I told you, I was like, this is going to be one of my league pass teams this year for sure, because I'm super excited to see what Chet does with Josh Giddey, SGA, and that lineup you guys had going down there. And then, of course, there's this super fluke injury during the pro-am that, which, by the way, everyone going, oh, see, he's going to have health issues. Like, do people understand how fluky of an injury this was? Like 30 seconds into a pro-am game that was eventually canceled due to how wet the floor was. And the type of injury that Chet got really only happens in football.
Mm-hmm. It actually just happened. I'm also a Cowboys fan. It just happened to one of our corners. He got a interception off Jared Goff, actually. Funnily enough, bringing in some football for y'all. But yeah, he got an
you guys
interception.
kicked our asses this weekend. It was great.
It was nice. It was good to see before we got blown up by the Timberwolves later. But yeah, it's man, it's what can you really do? Jamal Crawford had guys out there playing on a slip and slide. It happens. The fact that it happened in Seattle too makes it feel even more cursed than it already did. Man, it's all right. He'll be back next year, and him and Victor will be really fun to watch competing for Rookie of the Year against each other, both on the Thunder. So it'll be cool.
Oh yeah, yeah. There you go. Yeah, exactly. The Thunder
It'll be a good time.
The Thunder are just now going to have the two-headed dragon, the three-headed dragon with Poku, Chet, and Victor Wembanyama, of course.
Man, that'd be a good time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then Josh Giddey and SGA. That's a pretty great lineup. But holy, the height would be insane. But Cone, Troy, there's a lot of NBA basketball we have to dive into because this was this last week was opening week of the NBA calendar, and this is From Half Court, where we talk things all NBA basketball, but also Detroit Pistons. If you like that, be sure you like this, subscribe to the channel, share this podcast with your friends, leave us a positive rating, and join in the conversation down below. We will also be having a Discord server starting up pretty soon, another place where you can go interact and hang out with the community. So be sure you're tuning in to that. But also be sure you're following myself on Twitter at Sean Half Court, my guy Troy at TroySergey44, and my guy Cone at 3_. Is it at 3_ Cone, or is it just
there's the underscore there. You're completely right. As much as I hate it, it's still there. The person who has 3 Cone, when I first made the account back in like 2016, before I didn't use it for 3 years after I made it, I still don't think they've tweeted in about 3 years. So
dude, I have the exact same thing. There's someone that has at From Half Court on Twitter, and it's some bot account that like it literally says the name Dribble Drabble, and it says that it hasn't tweeted. It's just, it has 2 followers. It doesn't exist, and so I can't
Dribble Drabble.
Yeah,
there they are. You follow them. You're one of the 2 followers.
Yeah, I want to know when this mother goes down, Cone. I want to know when this could be mine, Cone.
I should do that with the person that has the 3 Cone at has 2 following, 1 follower, and they retweeted something in 2020, and that's like their only tweet since 2016.
Sean, if you can you share the screen with our audience and they can see that Dribble Drabble bio?
No, I'm not going to promote the person who has our handle. Screw that, Troy. Oh my gosh. No, but Cone, before we did get into basketball, I do really quickly want to like touch on, like, like you said, I know you touched a little bit on some of the content stuff you do. I know, by the time, this podcast will come out, you will have done a stream with Bleacher Report that I believe people can go check out in the Bleacher Report app or on the Bleacher Report website. If you go to Cone's Twitter, there should be something about it there. I'm sure you can go back and rewatch it then. But Cone, for those that might not know, like, tell us a little bit more about, like, like your YouTube channel, and also like the work you're doing with Enjoy Basketball. Because seriously, man, I love what you guys are doing there. You guys are just killing it.
Yeah, man. So me personally, I have my Twitter account. I started using like 2019 when I was bored at work one day with my brother, who also has a Twitter account at Ninja Bands. He's a Sixers fan.
He's got to come on the pod at some point too. We were talking about making that happen. That'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, him and I have been trying to bring back our podcast for a little bit, but his laptop's been broken for like 3 months and he can't figure out what's wrong. So we're trying to figure that out right now. But yeah, so I do that stuff over there on Twitter. I started a YouTube account in December of 2020, I think it was. And it's grown pretty well. I'm getting close to 16,000 subscribers. The goal is to hit 20K by the end of the year. Videos have been doing really well, so hopefully that goal is attainable. And then, yeah, like you said, doing stuff with Enjoy Basketball, which is a basketball kind of like brand, a movement associated with Kenny Beecham. So I run the social medias for that over there, do Twitter Spaces. I've started to make some content for them too, to post on TikTok and Instagram, which has been fun. Do some other live streams and stuff with them too. Also an in-person event in New York City coming up this Friday, which is going to be really dope. I'm going to get to meet Kenny for the first time, which is cool. So the rest of the Enjoy Basketball team will be there as well. Some like exclusive merch. It's going to be really fun. I'm super excited for that. And then, like you said, Bleacher Report streams through the Bleacher Report app. I've been doing them a couple of times. They just kind of randomly reached out to me one day during or following the draft, and they were like, "Hey, do you want to talk about Chet Holmgren's first preseason game on the Bleacher Report app?" I was like, "Yeah, absolutely, sure." And we did a couple here and there. They hit me up for Donovan Mitchell when he got traded to Cleveland. They were like, "Hey," the day of, they're like, "Hey, do you want to do this stream?" I'm like, "Sure." And so we've been working a lot together. It's been really fun to do that. Tomorrow, hopping on with one of my good friends, Mohammed, who works over at House of Highlights. Him and a couple of his friends do a podcast over there. So we're going to be doing a stream tomorrow talking about, which I know you sent me a couple topics. I know we're going to hit on the Lakers. So we're going to be talking about how in the world that team can fix themselves. So it's been really fun. It's been a really cool past few months. This whole like journey I've been on since, like I said, I made that Twitter account in a shed at a parking lot that I worked at during the summer. Has been really, really fun. It's been very surreal. Doesn't really feel like any of it has happened. But it's been a great time. I get to meet cool people like y'all over here on the pod. So
Appreciate that, man.
Yeah, it's been great.
Yeah, dude, it's awesome. It's one of those things where, for me personally, this, my podcast just started in a basement, you know what I mean? It just started as like a simple idea, as like a hobby, just to see, where it's at now, just how much, you've grown
Mhm.
over the past year or so, how much, like we have grown, I remember so the first time we had you on, Cone, was on New Year's Day. And it's pretty crazy because at that time, our channel had a whopping 110 subscribers. And now,
Mhm.
your third time being here, we're hovering around 2,400. So we're we've made quite a bit of
Wow.
progress this year. And yeah, man, you know, same thing as you, just a grassroots thing and just all about the love of basketball here, man. So I'm super proud of you, super grateful for, you being, coming on here, even when I was just some random guy with 100 subscribers. And, look at us, man. Who would have thought?
Yeah, exactly, bro. It's been a big come up. It's been a huge year.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think I started like I'm pretty sure I checked a year ago, um, or just like a little bit less than a year, or a little more than a year ago. At this point, I had about 5,000 subscribers, and now
Oh,
I'm about to
wow.
hit 16,000, which is crazy. It's been a huge come up of a year, man, and yeah, it's been great to see y'all grow and everything. I know we talk every now and again, Sean. It's just cool to keep
Yeah.
up with y'all. Y'all are doing some really great stuff over here. I know we've talked multiple times. When that Pistons Thunder finals eventually happens, we'll have to get together for it. It's going to be a great time. I'm sorry y'all got
It
swept,
will
but
happen. It will
we
happen.
had we had some fun in the process. Even though you got swept, we celebrated on your home court because we had home court advantage
Oh,
because we
yeah.
broke the win record, 75-7. It was overall a pretty good time in general. So it was fun.
You're already forecasting it out. I like it, Code.
Oh
The
yeah, no,
70.
I've fully seen the plan. It's like we talked about Poku, Chet, Wemby,
Yeah. Well, what
Shea,
about, I
Giddy.
mean, you didn't see the plans where it's Wemby, Ivy, and Cade with Jalen
Oh,
Duren. I mean, that.
well, I mean, I can't see something that's not going to happen, so I don't understand what.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't
okay.
see what we're
Okay.
going for here, Sean. I'm not quite sure what you're going at. I mean,
Yeah,
if you
for
want if
sure.
you want to go play 2K, just like load up the PlayStation or something,
Yeah,
man.
yeah,
It's
there you go. Yeah,
yeah,
this
there you
isn't
go.
fantasy. You're totally right. Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
come on, man.
I mean, Code, you spoke on it though, and I mean, we keep bringing up the name Victor Wembanyama, and it's crazy that at this point in the season, or at this point in October, there's already a prospect that's looming over this league, right? Like
Hmm.
there's always, you always have like a general feeling of who's going to be like the top prospect each year. Like Zion felt like he was going to be one of the top guys in his class. RJ Barrett as well felt like he was going to be one of the top guys in that class. Cade
Hmm.
was kind of seen as the number one guy going into his year as well with Jalen Green, you know. But Victor Wembanyama is perhaps the most consensus we've seen in a pick maybe ever.
Hmm.
And that's even with Scoot Henderson there, who's also such a
Yeah,
solid
he's
prospect.
crazy.
And I think the crazy thing, I mean, we've seen Adam Silver talk about, all of the different things that they're looking at as far as ways to discourage tanking going forward. And I know one thing that was brought up was relegation. I don't think that's ever going to happen because
No.
you'd have to get the majority of owners to agree on that plan. And I don't know any owner that would say, "Yeah, I want to go to the G League. Sign me
Yeah.
up." You know,
Hmm.
but like, what do you think? Because I know obviously, and I thought you made a really good video touching on this, by the way. Like, talking about what the Thunder's plan is, what they're doing
Hmm.
going into this season, how they're not just tanking for Wembanyama, how they're actually playing for something, and that they could still ultimately end up in that race because that's how the NBA lottery works. But, with where they're at, it's not like they're necessarily going out there just trying right now to go out and tank for Wemby, right?
Hmm.
But what do you think, just, because I personally, I know you and I, like, as much as we're fans of the teams that we root for, we're also just as big of fans of the league itself, right?
Yeah.
And, as much as I love to see my team succeed, I also love to see big moves to happen. I love to see trades. I love to see the way the league is going.
Hmm.
What do you think if, let's say, teams like the Bulls don't get off to a good start, teams like the Hornets have as disastrous of a year as we think they could, right? Like, what happens with like some of these teams who have aspirations right now start losing games? Do you think we're going to start seeing a tankathon like we've never seen before? Because I know last year, like, even though, like, towards the end of the season, I know the Thunder, I know they get flack, but they are pretty creative sometimes with bringing in guys from their G League roster, right? Like specifically, I know the Thunder started bringing in second unit guys from, from their G League. They weren't the only team to do that, by the way. A ton of teams in the league did that as well. But I'm thinking we could perhaps see that earlier than ever this year. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I think you're right. When you have Adam Silver came out and basically was like, guys, please don't do it. He was like out here begging teams not to tank. That's how good Victor is. And I mean, we've seen what Victor can do. Like it is no surprise that every team wants to have him on their roster. Like he is a genuine, like transformational player. He's not just like generational. He's one of those guys that can change the game of basketball itself, being a 7-footer that plays like that. It just, or not even 7-footer. He's 7'4", like
7'5" with shoes on, man. It's crazy.
Exactly. He puts a couple pairs of socks on. He's almost one of the tallest player in league history. It's ridiculous, man, what he's able to do at that height with that build. He can genuinely change the game. And really with basketball, what makes it so tough is more than basically any other sport, basketball, one player can completely transform a franchise forever because in like football or baseball, or I don't watch hockey much, but I'm going to guess hockey too. You don't see as much of a transformation if you get this one generational guy. They can completely change your franchise, especially like if in football, you get a great quarterback, but you've also got to play defense. And if you got a guy like Victor, who looks like he could be an MVP and a defensive player of the year, he looks like he can shoot threes, he can attack the basket. It's hard to deter teams from tanking because I see that guy. I want to find a way to help the Thunder lose games. Like it's incredible what he's capable of doing out there. You want to see him on your favorite team. And also with the lottery, because it is just so like odds based, it's not even like, say one team goes out and loses like 16 in a row and they're like 1-16 to start the season. Other teams are probably like, oh, we're not going to lose that many games. We won't catch them. We don't need to tank as hard. But because of the lottery system with the odds and everything, it's all just luck. Like you could go 0-82 and you could still end up with the 5th overall pick. Right. So it's just tough with tanking. And I think because there is such a big chance at the end of the year, I wouldn't be surprised if we even see like teams that are on the borderline of the play-in that are like, we don't have a real chance, even if we make it. Let's just kind of give up. Let's just kind of like go all in. Like maybe a team's like 1 or 2 games out of the play-in with like 7 games to go. They're like, let's just sit some guys. Let's just be in the lottery. Maybe we'll be like the 9th or the 10th team, but that gives us a chance to maybe win him. And, if you're a team like I don't know, like say you're like the New Orleans Pelicans and like you could end up with Victor through the Lakers pick if they continue to play poorly, or like any number of teams, him on the Thunder, him on the Pistons would be amazing with Cade and Jaden. I'm sure y'all have thought about that a lot.
What?
On the
No,
not
the thought has never even entered my innocent mind.
That's
not
true.
Even a little bit. We'd be a mother flipping dynasty. Anyway, go ahead.
Y'all have Bojan. You can't lose that many games. It won't happen anyways.
Yeah, exactly. And Bojan, we trust.
Pistons legend.
But yeah, I mean, I think to that point, Cone, there are so many teams too that maybe they want to develop their bench too and play those guys, towards the end of the stretch. And maybe that's we saw that with the Pistons even too, not necessarily that they're trying to tank, but they just wanted to kind of see some of those guys like Hamidou Diallo develop too. So I feel like there's teams out there who they have a competitive 15-man roster, and sometimes you're right, maybe they're on that border and they just want to develop those guys more and then enter the lottery with a good chance.
I agree with you, Troy, on the idea that there's times where like the Pistons will like want to try out their bench, right? Or want to see what these second.
I'm not just saying the Pistons. I'm saying any team.
Oh no, I know. I'm just saying I agree that your example does happen. But I think, Troy, what's going to happen is even a step beyond that. I think to like what I was even saying a minute ago of like, you're seeing more and more guys coming up from the G League and like, in the middle of the season towards the end of the year. Granted, I think this year kind of opened the door for a little bit more because of the COVID, like this last year because of COVID. And, I think, the Pistons, they had the most players play for their franchise in one single season in their history with 27 different players suiting up for them. I'm sure like every franchise, I can only imagine like what the Thunder probably had too, with that as well. Right.
Yeah.
But like, also like you're just seeing, I wonder how many, like towards the end of the year, like in March, how many teams are actually still going to be fielding competitive rosters? on a nightly basis. Because if like, let's say the Chicago Bulls for an example, let's just put them, in the conversation for 1 second, because for them, they're in a situation where unless they're really bad, like really bad, they don't get their number 1 overall pick. It goes to Orlando, and they're going to be in the lottery, right? And there's a situation where Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan are not exactly going to be the most reliable as far as health this season. Nikola Vucevic hasn't exactly looked like a slam dunk of a trade ever since they brought him in, right? Like, at a certain point, if you're the Chicago Bulls, you don't have an incentive to even win, because what happens if you get back to the playoffs? Are you going to just be able to get over the hump against the Bucks this season? We don't even know if Lonzo's playing this year. You know what I mean? Like, for like just teams like that, they might not have the incentive like in their head. Why wouldn't they at least put their name in the basket for Victor Wembanyama? You know what I mean? So like, that's the thing that's going to be interesting.
There's a lot of reason to just kind of throw in the towel at the end, which I think is why Adam Silver's out there throwing around very empty threats, like the relegation thing, which he came out and said later, like that was kind of in jest, like it wasn't actually like a serious thought, because that would never happen. It would just completely destroy small markets even more if NBA players went to like a not great team and had the risk of playing in the G League the next season. Yeah, so like him saying that, and then him saying like we like teams to be competitive, like don't tank kind of thing. Like he knows what could potentially happen. And I think this is a season where we could see some of the most egregious tanking we've ever seen, because of the way the lottery set up and the way that Victor is just so transformational and how tanking culture has kind of changed. I mean, it's become clear that for small markets in the NBA, you have to tank at some point. You can't ever, there's no way to like become relevant again heading into a rebuild without tanking in some way, losing more games on purpose, because otherwise you end up like getting the 8th overall pick and then the 6th pick and then the 9th pick. And maybe you get lucky once, but to keep up with teams that are bringing in these star free agents like big markets, you've got to get really lucky in the lottery. And the only way to make sure you get that luck is, by sucking.
Yeah. Yeah. And at a
not just
point,
Victor, but okay.
No,
I was going to say this is a deep draft too. Yeah, it's not just Victor.
True,
this is a deep draft.
Yeah,
there's plenty of guys too that you can get at number 2, 3, 4, 5 who can impact your roster. So another thing to keep in mind as well.
Yeah, and it's crazy because we're talking about how this is, they're talking about how even beyond Victor, this is like a historically deep draft class. And that's crazy because how many classes have we had over the last few years where we've said this is a historically deep draft class, right? Like the past couple of years have been stellar drafts. Now we're having one that's even better. So I think to your point, it's like, these teams are in situations where, especially, like there's only a certain amount of guys that are transformational and can lead your team to a championship, right? And if you don't have one of those guys, and if you're not in one of those situations where you can truly go out and do something, again, that might change it. But also, I think the other aspect of it is not only are you going to see like egregious tanking more than ever, guys might become available that normally wouldn't be available. Like, and I think in particular, like I'm really curious to see how the Portland situation evolves over the season. They're 3-0 so far. Damian Lillard has looked stellar. If Portland's not going anywhere, he might want to say that he wants to go play for a contender. Portland might want to say, hey, Victor Wembanyama and Shaedon Sharpe would look pretty amazing together. Like that again, like that's like, that's where it could go. And like even teams like, the Thunder, who have a ton of picks and have a lot of capital, who could potentially want to, pair some guys along Chet and Giddey going into next year. The Pistons, they have almost $80 million in cap space going into next year. And, they're going to have some young talent that they could cash in on as well. So I think as far as like the balance of power in the NBA, not only is it going to change with like wherever Victor Wembanyama goes, but as the consequence of the Victor Wembanyama like tankathon, I think that's going to change the balance of the league too. So like the crazy thing is we're seeing this insanely entertaining basketball already, but also looming is the balance of power of the entire league just potentially changing at any moment.
It's crazy. It's all because of this 18-year-old kid.
Right.
Like,
all because of an 18-year-old kid from France.
And it's just, it could really just, because he really is a guy, like, into even more of your point, say you're like a middle of the pack team, say you're the Sacramento Kings, you reach a point where, maybe we're going to be a play-in team or maybe we're outside of the play-in. Why don't they trade? Like they can be like, okay, we have Sabonis, or we can give up on him or De'Aaron Fox, who's been really, really good so far. Fox has been absolutely killing it.
Yeah.
Love what I've seen from him, but they are 0-3 so far. So if they go out there and they're like, this isn't working, and they trade one or both of those guys, or even if they say they hold on to Fox, you trade Sabonis away, you end up being worse. You then could maybe get Victor Wembanyama, who could finally get you out of this perpetual missing the playoff cycle that you're in. Because then Fox, Keegan Murray, and Wembanyama, plus the role players they have, that's a good team. There are so many teams that I can just picture Victor being on, and my mind always goes back to somehow the Lakers are going to give the Pelicans Victor Wembanyama, and the league is going to be over with him and Zion and Ingram. My mind keeps going back to that, but
right.
I can just. There's so many teams whose jerseys I can picture him in. Maybe like the Pacers. Miles Turner is going to miss the first few games because he stepped on a ball boy's ankle, and then, which is a crazy sentence.
He'll probably be in a Lakers jersey in the next couple of weeks too. But we'll get there in a few.
Yeah, and that could even incentivize them to trade him to the Lakers more, because if I was the Lakers, I'd try and use that as leverage. Say they're kind of bad by Thanksgiving when the Lakers are reportedly going to reevaluate things. They're like, hey, trade us Miles Turner, it will make you a worse team. You can go out and get Victor, because then Halliburton, Mathurin, who's looked like a monster, and Victor Wembanyama to start your rebuild. This is going to be their second year of tanking. You get Victor Wembanyama, that's over, and you have three guys that are all-star caliber players, and Victor Wembanyama is going to be the best player in the league in 4 years.
And then even then, add Scoot Henderson to that mix.
Exactly.
A lineup of Benedict Mathurin, Tyrese Halliburton, and Scoot Henderson. That playmaking's off the charts. So ultimately, I think a lot of teams are primed to be in really good positions. I think both of the teams that you and I root for, Cone, are in really good positions. I want to get to both of them in a minute. I want to ask you more about your Thunder, but first, I would be remiss if we didn't talk a little bit about this Lakers situation. We keep hovering around and bringing up a little bit because and again, you released a video today saying, it's over. It's time for them to trade Russ. And I don't want this to be a Russ bashing session, because I think to put all the problems of the Lakers on Russ is quite frankly giving Rob Pelinka a pass, and also is missing a lot of the context of the situation. Because I think if you really look at the roster, first of all, Cone, I think you and I, we've talked about the Lakers both times you've been on the pod so far, because each time you've come on the pod, they've been in a disastrous
There's
situation.
always something with them, man.
Yeah. I remember. So the first pod, and this was the first time you and I met, we were New Year's Eve around 2021. And around that time, I remember what you and I were talking about on that pod was, could the Lakers, come out of the new year and make a playoff push? Who could they trade for at the deadline, but to potentially turn this season around? And here we are, 3 games into the season, talking about if the Lakers could turn it around, and if they could potentially make a trade that could turn this season around. I personally, I hated the moves they made this offseason, even though I like some of the players they brought in. They just don't have any shooting at all. And it seems to me like the only way to make this season semi-salvageable and not completely a disaster is to trade 2 future first-round picks just to make your team competent. And to me, that's the worst possible situation as a franchise you can be in. I'm not sure what your thoughts are, Cone, but that's where my head goes first. It's just, man, I really, I know a lot of people talk about the Russell Westbrook move and how terrible of a decision that was. And that absolutely was a terrible decision. But after these last 2 seasons, giving Rob Pelinka an extension?
Yeah, that's wild. That's a decision that they made.
That is a move.
It's one of the moves of all time, I would have to say.
100. It's one of the decisions of all time, for sure.
Man, yeah, so basically kind of like the center of my video, what I was talking about is, being an OKC fan, Russell Westbrook is the player that kind of made me fall in love with basketball. I want to see that guy win a ring so bad. And when he got traded to the Lakers, I was saying, oh my gosh, they're going to win a ring. I was like, he can unlock Anthony Davis's game, because I was biased and blinded. I'm also a big LeBron guy, so I was also rooting for them a lot. And yeah, they sucked last year. in the offseason. They didn't bring in really any shooting. I've been genuinely impressed with their defense so far. Like, they look like a genuinely good defensive team.
They're
They've
top.
been
I think they're top 3 or top 5 in the league defensively right now.
Yeah, they've been one of the best defensive teams. And if they could hit a three at even like decently below league average, they could be 2-1, if not 3-0. Unfortunately, though, they are historically, I saw a stat that I used for my video. But that basically right now they've shot 25 for 118 from three this season. That's the second worst percentage in a 3-game stretch for any team that's ever shot 100 or more threes ever. That's the second worst stretch ever for a team. The only team that they were worse than is, so that's like 21.2%.
Yeah, it was like the Atlanta Hawks one year,
2018 Atlanta Hawks, who finished 24-58. That's the only other team that has shot worse than them in a 3-game stretch with at least 100 attempts. And that is like it's legit historically bad how bad they've shot. I just don't understand how you have LeBron James. The only rule with LeBron is give him shooters. You have Anthony Davis. The only rule with him is get him some shooters. And then Russell Westbrook, another guy that you have to get shooters, and they found a way to put not a single shooter on this roster. I don't know how they did it. Credit to them a little bit. Even guys like Lonnie Walker is not that bad of a shooter. He hasn't been hitting anything. Patrick Beverley was actually a decent shooter last year, although for his career, he's not that great. And it's reached the point where now Sham said they're looking at Mo Harkless, who's average, I think he has a 27.4% career 3-point percentage. They're looking at him as a guy to bring in.
And Terry Rozier is a guy that they reportedly love too, which Terry Rozier isn't exactly a knockdown 3-point shooter either. So like, I don't know if that move helps them either. Like that just feels like a slightly better version of Dennis Schroeder.
Yeah, it's rough out there. And that's part of the reason why because I've been like saying like, oh, maybe they can find guys to make this Russ thing work. And Russ has been horrific offensively. He's shooting 8% from 3. Like, that's not me saying something accidentally. It is the single digit of 8. And I think he's shooting like 29% from the field.
He's currently had 11 attempts wide open from beyond the arc. He's made 1 of them.
It's rough, man. And he even changed his shot form, and it looks better in terms of shooting from deep. And, you know, he had like his MVP season. He was phenomenal from 3. It's just not working. And because of his contract, they've got to trade him and those 2 first-round picks. Maybe you can get away with 1 if you go for a smaller package, but that is the only way they're going to turn this season around. And normally I would say kind of just ride this thing out. There's no hope, but they've been good defensively. AD has been phenomenal. He looks like he could be a defensive player of the year guy. LeBron's been good and locked in on that end. If they just had like league average shooting, they might be undefeated right now. So to me, the package that I've always liked the most is Buddy Hield and Miles Turner. I like that one a lot. You bring in a good defender, a shot blocker who can stretch the floor in Miles Turner. And of course, you bring in Buddy Hield, who the only guys who have hit more threes than him over the past few years, James Harden, Steph Curry. Actually, a stat I just heard on the Sixers broadcast before this. So shout out to them for giving me that. So like that's a package, you know, the Jazz, they talked about I think it's Conley, Clarkson, like Rudy Gay or something like that.
Yep.
Regardless of what it is, they've got to trade him using that contract and those picks to do something, because you can't, like, LeBron signed that extension, I'm sure, with the knowledge that they would use those picks, and they haven't done it yet. I'm guessing they're going to at some point during this season. I know Rob Pelinka said they want to wait till Thanksgiving, but in my opinion, that'll probably be too late.
Yeah, it'd be well too late. And there's almost an argument, and you don't want to overreact to like the first week of the season, but like there's a legitimate case where they could be 0-7 in the next couple of weeks. And Troy, I want to flip it over to you too with your perspective as well. You know, I'm not sure, you know, if you've been able to watch this team, if at all. You know, I know they've had a couple of games on national television by now. On Sunday in particular, they had that game where they, you know, blew another lead against the Trailblazers. You know, kind of like, you know, that was kind of when the questionable decision from Russ down the stretch. But I think another aspect of this conversation as well is, you know, we've talked for so long about Anthony Davis. You know, in order for, you know, this Lakers situation to truly thrive, you know, as LeBron gets older, is Anthony Davis needed to become the guy, right? Like he needed to become the talent or the top player in the world that we all saw in 2018, that he can be. And in the bubble, we saw that he can be, right?
Right.
But I saw this stat on opening night after the game. This is from Kirk Goldsberry from ESPN. Anthony Davis is the least efficient jump shooter in the NBA over the last 2 seasons. Among 178 players that have attempted at least 500 jump shots since the beginning of the 2020-2021 season, Davis has logged the lowest effective field goal percentage on those shots at 35.99%. No other player is below 40. So we talk about the shooting woes and the struggles of Russ, and obviously he gets a lot of slack. And I know Anthony Davis is still a really effective player on the defensive end, and when he gets to the basket, can be really dangerous. It still could be a bucket. And when we talk about one of the best talents in this league, Anthony Davis just has to be in this conversation. But Troy, where the hell has he been since the bubble, man?
Yeah. And to back that story up, Sean, I think too, we started just talking about the Lakers' struggles as a whole. And that Rob Pelinka signing signing, was it a 5-year contract now?
He got a 2-year extension essentially to align with Darvin Ham's extension. So he's there for like another 4 years, I think.
Right. Okay. Well, just that alone, because this story starts 2 years ago with their problems, right? They were a 7th seed, ended up. I think they won one game maybe against the Suns in 2021. And last year they really showed no improvement. Actually, they showed a decline. So to think that this roster, you can put small pieces like, the Kendrick Dunn, the Lonnie Walker, Coney talked about him, on this roster and expect that they fix the problems and that they're just going to regroup again in the offseason and be a playoff competitor, it's just not going to happen. So I think to really get the full picture of this Lakers team, you need to understand that they have not done one thing to improve this roster. And in my recommendation, I would love shooters. Cone touched on that already. To add shooters on this roster, we've seen LeBron James succeed with that in the past with Cleveland, and it's something that just I don't understand. And we can talk as, fans of basketball about what they can do, what they cannot do, but we're talking about people in the business, right? Professionals. We're talking about GMs. We're talking about scouts. What are they doing to improve this Lakers team? Nothing. And then to your second point, Sean, Anthony Davis thing. I just feel like he's in his decline. I think we've seen the best of Anthony Davis in the past. I think, I don't know. For some reason, he doesn't feel like, I don't know if he truly has the keys to the franchise in some areas. And I just don't think that we're not going to really ever see.
Do you think it's like the health thing?
Anthony
Do you
Davis.
think some of
it?
Right. Some of it's just he hasn't been able to stay on the court.
Right. And I think the decline, is partially, if not almost halfly, because of his health with the decline. So I just think they have a lot in their shoes that they have to work out before they're even talking about competitive basketball. And it starts with moving this roster around. They have proven time and time again, going on season number 3, that this roster in its construction, as far as your faces of the franchise, are not capable of succeeding.
Yeah, for sure. And I think ultimately, whatever happens with the Lakers, there's going to be a lot of trade packages, on, that'll certainly be on their mind. Again, I still don't love the idea of giving up those picks because, Cone, you brought up the scenario earlier where the Pelicans could potentially get Victor Wembanyama if the Lakers continue to be this bad. So if the Lakers somehow, in that trade, getting Anthony Davis, but also ultimately giving the Pelicans Victor Wembanyama, would that go down as one of the worst trades of an NBA history? I mean, even though they got an NBA title, they gave up Brandon Ingram, they gave up Lonzo Ball, they gave up like how many players in this deal? And if Wembanyama's ultimately part of it, who's a better talent out of college than Anthony Davis?
Yeah,
that's insane.
It's tough because they won a title, so I have to still call them a winner. But good Lord, I would say it's still a win for the Lakers. They got their title, but I would say for the Pelicans, it would be one of the biggest wins in a trade in NBA history.
Right.
Yeah.
But no one was thinking that in 2019 when that trade went down.
Yeah, it's crazy how just a few years later, it's like, if this Lakers team continues to be bad, then even if the Pelicans don't get Victor, they get a high-level player out of this draft, and they just continue to stack up those assets.
Yeah, which, by the way, I love their depth. Like, like the fact that they even got a guy like Dyson Daniels in the lottery this last year. That's a guy I really like as far as a defensive prospect. They're going to be really fun to watch. They've been one of my favorite teams to watch on League Pass so far this year. From Half Court is brought to you by Manscaped. When we talk about post players, there is few better players in the restricted area than our friends over at Manscaped. With great products such as the Lawnmower 4.0 with skin-safe technology, the Weed Whacker, their deodorants, lotions, and more, Manscaped is unrivaled when it comes to the men's hygiene game, serving over 8 million balls worldwide. That's a lot of testicles, ladies and gentlemen. So, if you're finding yourself in need of Manscaped products, be sure to go to manscaped.com and use code HALFCOURT at checkout because that can get you 20% off plus free shipping. Our friends at Manscaped sent us these products, and I can tell you that they are absolutely for real. I have been absolutely satisfied and in love with their entire product line, from boxers, t-shirts, the Lawnmower 4.0 to the Weed Whacker ear and nose trimmer. You can really not go wrong. Be sure to go to manscaped.com and use code HALFCOURT at checkout for 20% off plus free shipping. Thank you again to our friends at Manscaped for sponsoring this video. Personally looking at the league, the landscape as a whole, I feel like there's been a lot of surprises. There's been a lot of really fun things. I do want to touch really, before we kind of touch on like those like big league specific, like those surprises and a lot of those performances. I want to touch on our teams a little bit real quick, Cone. I want to check in. How are you feeling, with the Thunder where they're at right now? I know you said they're 0-3 to start the season. Josh Giddey, his jump shot from what I've seen is definitely improved. And I am a huge Josh Giddey fan. So I'm super excited to see his development and his evolution this season as well. But also, Jalen Williams is a stud. I know he got injured night one. He got an elbow to the eye, right?
Yeah, Jay McDaniels hit him in the eye with an elbow. He played he got like 5 minutes. It was really rough because he was one of the guys I was really excited about coming in, of course, with Chet being out. So I think he's gonna be back in like a week or so. So he shouldn't be out too long. But
But you
it's
just
okay.
can't have nice things.
Yeah, he'll come back with a mask and average 30 a game. I'm not too worried about it.
Yeah, Mask J. Will's going to be nasty. I'm looking forward to that. But overall, like what are some of the players, like for those that obviously I know for the casual audience hearing that Chet's not going to be playing this year, I know a lot of people automatically tune out the Thunder and presume they're a tanking team. But like we talked about, they're not, right? Like they're like obviously they're still going to be in a situation where they're still going to be in the lottery conversation just because of the way talent shakes up right now and the way the league's at. But as far as we talk about, I know a lot of people focus on the assets that they have going forward, but what about some of those nice pieces they have right now? Just like, Jalen Williams, Ousmane Dieng, like they have like a lot of sneaky, really good prospects on their team that like if these hit and exceed expectations, and then they go out and get guys like you said, Wembanyama or Henderson, whoever is in this, and whoever's going to be available next year, this team's going to be dangerous for a long, long time.
Yeah, really excited. If we had Chet for our first, like if Chet had played, we'd be 2-1 right now. Barely lost to the Timberwolves on our first game. Barely lost to the Nuggets too. We were right in it until the end. And the reason we lost is because we had to continuously throw double teams at Jokic, who just continued to throw the most insane passes ever, like they were nothing, because that's what he does.
Yep.
So I truly believe if we have Chet, we'd be 2-1 right now, which is hard to stomach because it would be super cool to see that, improvement. But then this past game, Shea didn't play because he fell on his hip pretty hard at the end of the Nuggets game. So they sat him out to be precautionary. And then Josh Giddey ends up turning his ankle last game. So he missed the end of the game too. And he might miss a few games. He's already been ruled out for our game against the Clippers tomorrow. So obviously Shea and Giddey as the backcourt, Shea is electric. He put up over 30 points in the first game. I think he had 28 or 29 in the second game. I think he could average around 26, 27 points per game if he stays healthy for the full year. It's been a bit of an issue recently with his health. Hopefully he is able to come back and be good on that end. but he's just phenomenal. And then Josh Giddey, like you said, shooting, still a work in progress, but his form looks improved. Shots are falling a lot more regularly in the preseason as well as the regular season. I just feel more confident in him taking them. His driving game has looked improved too. He got stronger, a great playmaker. Really excited for them as a backcourt. Chet Holmgren, when he does come back next season, is going to be a force defensively down low, have a full offseason to bulk up as well. You've got Trey Mann, who's a great space creator as a guard, shown a ton of flashes. Jalen Williams is really exciting too. I love him as a guard, playing off ball. Alongside those two guys, he's shown a ton of promise there. Jeremiah Robinson Earl has a true shooting percentage through 2 games of like 90%, which is not going to stay, but he's just a fun connecting piece there too. He can knock down some shots. Poku's looked improved, albeit still some crazy moments. Still some crazy moments from Poku here and there, but he's been fun to watch so far. Ousmane Dieng, I'm excited about, as he's supposed to be a bit of a more raw prospect, but especially in the preseason and even now, like yesterday, he got some more minutes and he was really solid, especially defensively. I love what I've seen from him, and we've been a really competitive team through this start of the season. Last game, it wasn't as much so because Shea didn't play. But in the first 2 games, we were right there with the Timberwolves and Nuggets, 2 of my top teams in the Western Conference this year, right until the end. So it's been really fun. I'm really proud of how this team has competed so far. Probably without Shea and Giddey tomorrow against the Clippers. I don't think it's going to go super well. They just got blown out against the Suns. I feel like they're going to be in for a bit of a revenge game there. So probably won't go well there. Probably start 0-4. But overall, it's been fun so far. I really like the improvement I've seen from the guys. And you guys know with the rebuild, it's all about kind of the journey, building up, watching these guys grow and get better. And I'm sure you guys have been feeling a lot of that same sentiment throughout your first few games.
Oh, most definitely. I think, Troy, I don't know about you, but for me, when I look at the Thunder, I see the similarities and the parallels with how the Pistons are being built, in the sense that, Sam Presti and Troy Weaver, that relationship that they did have, Troy Weaver coming from the Oklahoma City Thunder, locker room, just how both of these teams have made a priority of trading up and getting multiple players in the first round, and how both teams have sneaky assets. Obviously there's the big names like SGA, Cade, Chet, Giddey, but like there's also the sneaky names like Trey Mann, Killian Hayes, like some of these more like under the radar prospects. And Troy, when we're looking at the Pistons right now, and Cone, I would love to hear your thoughts as well. I'm not sure if you've been able to watch any of the Pistons at all, but I would say it's inherently clear the talent level is just way higher than last year. And in my lifetime, this is the most athletic Pistons group I've ever seen. Jalen Duren and Jaden Ivey together. Oh my Lord. And even though we'll talk, we Jaden Ivey's special, and we'll talk about, kind of like him with some of the top rookies in a second, but like Jalen Duren, what he can be, the fact that he played significant down the stretch minutes in the 4th quarter in his first game.
Yeah.
He's 18 years old and doesn't turn 19 until December.
He's the youngest player in the league right now, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. He was one of my favorite guys going to the draft. He's a guy that I see that I think he could be like a Bam Adebayo light type player, where he's this high level defender, a lob threat. He's a better playmaker than people give him credit for, good rebounder. I like his game a lot. I thought it was y'all were one of my, actually up until I think this past like month or so, the most viewed video on my channel was me talking about how the Pistons were like the biggest winners of the draft.
Let's go. Look at that.
Love Jaden Ivey's game, highly athletic, great fit next to Cade in the backcourt. I love what I've seen from him. His playmaking too has been beyond what I thought it might be to start off his career. Love what I'm seeing from them over there, of course. And then, like you said, Jalen Duren has been really, really solid so far. Tons of flashes, as I believe he is the youngest player in the league right now. Yep. Still able to make a high level impact. I don't know.
We don't win that game. We don't win that first game without Jalen Duren.
Yeah. He immediately, first game out there, made an impact. And there have been a ton of great young players that have made impacts right away out of this rookie class. One that was kind of looked at by some people as a weaker one because it was sandwiched by 2021 and now 2023 with, Victor, Scoot, the Thompson twins, Cam Whitmore, all these different guys. It's it kind of flew under the radar, and so many guys are making such a big impact. Ivy and
Right.
Duren are a great example of that. And yeah, I do feel like a lot of these rebuilding teams, like I know when I watch us, I feel like, hey, like we're getting better. Like I can visibly see it. When I watched y'all play the Magic, both teams, I was like, these two teams look a lot better than they were last year. The talent,
Yep.
with the Magic, Paolo, amazing already right from the get go. What he's
Whew.
doing over there, he was so poised. It looks like he's been in the league for like 20 years at this point. Him alongside Franz Wagner, Wendell Carter, Jalen Suggs looks a lot better this season. So their talent level, ours, and then of course you guys's. Indiana looks better. Benedict Matherin, just so many young guys making an impact around the league.
Yeah, 100%. And Troy, I think, when I watch this team, it's crazy. Cone talks about how, Thunder would probably be 2-1 if Chet's in the lineup. It's crazy, like we're without, Alec Burks and Marvin Bagley, two 15-point a game scorers off of our second unit. Like our most reliable bench scorer so far has been Corey Joseph. So,
Yeah.
I just like if we had a second unit, I would only imagine like what we would be, like where we would be at and like what would be happening. But I think for me personally, like I think, just like Cone said there, like, when I watch the Pistons, when I watch the Thunder, I just see the amount of young talent that we're seeing come into the league that are all coming in day one and are just looking like pros, that
Right.
are looking like studs. Like we're just seeing more and more guys coming in, like guys like Tyrese Maxey coming in, like, no, I'm just awesome now. Or like, Cone brought up Paulo. Like I literally leaned to you, Troy, in like the second quarter. I was like, yeah, it looks like Paulo's been playing for 5 years. Like
Yeah.
that was the number one thing watching Paulo in person. Like he was 11 of 18 from the field that night. He didn't take a single three. He didn't rush any of his decisions. And for a guy to have that type of poise in his first game and to be the first number one overall pick to debut with 25, 5, and 5 since LeBron James, that's pretty good company.
Yeah, the league is in good hands. We've said it before. And what blows my mind is that these draft classes coming up are getting deeper and deeper, which means to get even in this league is going to be even getting harder and harder. I mean, guys, I don't really know the stats with this, but I would have guessed traditionally the average NBA player maybe plays 6 years in the league, average.
Yeah, 5,
Um,
6 years.
5 or 6, but it could get even smaller than that because of how deep this league is going.
Yeah.
So for me, yeah, if you want specific names, yeah, Paulo really is showing out well, and you think of other rookies around the league, Benedict Matherin as well. Very impressed with his game, but our guy too, Ivy, and Duren as well. So I think with those two guys in particular, Ivy and Duren, they're the reason why I think us Pistons fans can be excited about our future. Sure, we got Cade, sure we got Sneak, but
Yeah.
I think that the potential that those guys can have, and even
Their
a 3 to
ceilings are insane.
right. Both of their ceilings are so high that they can even get to those ceilings in the next 3 or 4 years. I think is very impressive for me. And yeah, the fact that we lose that game without Duren, that shows you his impact already day one. So
Yeah, for sure. And when I watch, throughout the league and when I watch, like the crazy thing with Paulo, like to like just to touch on the rookies real quick. Paulo Banchero is the first teenager to score 20 plus points in each of his first 3 career games in NBA history. 19 years old doing
yeah,
what he's doing. And I think the thing I saw from him that I didn't see in college, it felt like at times at college he was a little bit more passive. There'd be times where he'd let other guys kind of take over the offense. I think what you've seen from day one, even in the summer league from Paulo, has been this attitude of this is my franchise now. This is
right.
my organization. I'm putting them on my back and I'm doing everything in my power to go out and make sure we get a win. And granted, even though they're 0-3, they still haven't quite gotten in the win column yet. They're definitely a lot better. I would say they're about where Detroit was last year. I think they still have a lot of good amount of young talent, but like even with guys like Markelle Fultz, Jonathan Isaac, they still have a lot of guys injured. And so I think this is still a little bit of a transition year for them. But with Paulo coming in day one, I think, in retrospect, it's crazy that this guy wasn't the obvious number one overall pick in the sense that this guy's just so polished across the board. And yeah, Jabari's looked great. I'm sure Chet would have looked great if he was here, but like, guys, Paulo's just, he's that guy. He just is.
Yeah, I mean, do you think rookie of the year? I mean, I think he has my vote so far.
I mean, it's the way too early rookie of the year poll has him number one for sure, without a doubt. But I will say, Jaden Ivey is definitely up there if he keeps playing at this pace. Benedict Mathurin will definitely make a fun case for himself. Keegan Murray is still looked like a bucket. He's just like, I feel like Keegan Murray's still just been the same guy he's been since the preseason and since the summer league. It's just we just expect him to do it now.
Right.
That's the crazy thing. But like even I just think as a whole, just even Jabari Smith Jr. in Houston. I know a lot of people expected him, to come in and like be like much more of a slow burn. He's been pretty productive as well. So I mean, overall, this class just looks fantastic. So like, from the rookie standpoint, it's looked great. But I mean, let's talk about like league surprises real quick. And let's start with a good one. Cone, we were talking about the Jazz before we got on here. And like, I know before like the season, like Danny Ainge was like, no, we're not tanking. We're looking to compete. And everyone was like, yeah, whatever. Like good one, good joke. This team is 3-0 as of recording. And right now they're down to Houston. It's looking like, more than likely, like they're down. They could lose this one. You never know. They could come back, but Cone, there's no chance this momentum stays throughout the season. This is definitely going to be a bottom of the West team. However, this just show like what guys can do, like if you give them time to develop. Like Lauri Markkanen's like in what, year 5, year 6, we write a guy off if they haven't had the greatest start of their career. Lauri Markkanen's playing at all-star caliber level right now.
Yeah, he's been incredible. I was telling y'all before the pod, there was someone in one of those Enjoy Basketball Twitter spaces that I did. We were talking about award picks, and someone came in and said, or just like bold predictions, they said, Lauri Markkanen all-star. I can't remember who it was, but someone said, I think he could make a case if the Jazz surprise people. And even if he's not an all-star, I think he could be a most improved player guy, because I think just he's going to be a focal point in the Jazz. And I thought about it and I was like, yeah, I didn't really think about him like that, but that's a really great point. And immediately he's been that impact. They've run their offense through him a lot. He's looked really good, knocking down shots, being a connecting piece for them. This is the first time he's been featured in this way, because for Chicago, he came in, but then Zach LaVine was there. And when he went to Cleveland, of course, there's like Darius Garland and Jared Allen and Evan Mobley that he's surrounded by. Now that he's on Utah, he's one of their focal points. He's been really, really good. And I've been really impressed with what I've seen from him. And, Utah after the trade said Lauri's a guy that we plan on keeping long-term. And that's looking like a great decision right away from them. He's just been a guy that it feels like he is kind of one of those guys that I don't know how I didn't see it coming up until recently, but he feels like a perfect most improved player guy in a new situation where he's got a chance to prove a lot of people wrong. And it's always cool to see guys that are written off by a lot of the league come in and start to make an impact. And he's the biggest reason why Utah is 3-0.
Well, and we always in Troy, like we always assume that these guys are the problem, or they are the reason that the situation didn't work out. But like in hindsight, I mean, if you think about like, Lauri Markkanen's career leading up to now, it makes a lot of sense that this is a situation he's succeeding in. I mean, if you look at that original Bulls situation, there was all the dysfunction there from day one. Remember when they had to punch in with punch clocks? Remember that? That's a pretty great situation to thrive in as a young player. In addition, he gets traded to Cleveland, or he signs in Cleveland over the offseason, pretty much is seen, as kind of like a washed prospect at this point. Goes to Cleveland, proves himself, actually has a pretty solid season. How does he get thanked for it? Gets traded right again in a Donovan Mitchell trade. Yeah. But now, Danny Ainge, that type of basketball mind that can, find diamonds in the rough, but also, proving that like, hey, like just because we're blowing it up doesn't mean that it necessarily means that like the culture goes away either, because a lot of these veterans who are part of Utah playing so well over the years, like Jordan Clarkson, Mike Conley, have been playing really good basketball and have been showing like, hey, we're still here. And like the part of like what made us good isn't solely what went out the door, right?
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think a guy like Markkanen, I feel like you're right when you touched on what he was to that Cavs team last year too. I mean, he was more than a role player. I mean, he's a guy that they trusted to get buckets here and there. He was a guy that they trusted to play solid defense on, some of the opponent's best players. So the fact that I think Cleveland might have been a good confidence booster in him, that yes, I can compete in this league. Yes, I can be a contributor on a winning team in this league, because we really saw a swing for things with the Cavs last season, and we'll see that again now that they have Donovan Mitchell this season. But I think that a guy like Lauri Markkanen, I think he just needs to be trusted in on the team as a guy who can be a third, second option on an NBA team. And really, we're seeing kind of a first, now with Utah, but I feel like he's a guy that's a bucket getter, a solid defender, and he's really a guy that every NBA team would want. That's the big thing. I mean, any team would like a Lauri Markkanen on their team.
Yeah.
So for him, I just see that this is a good role for him. This is going to be a chance to be all-star level player if he keeps it up. I'm not sure if he's going to really keep up the playing, but he certainly impacts this Utah team.
Yeah.
And it's been a fun first 3 games, or 4 now if you include tonight's game, watching him play. So
yeah, modern Lauri, like the way Lauri Markkanen's playing right now, and like when he's healthy, is definitely a guy that everyone wants. I know at the end of his Chicago run, a lot of people assumed he was probably going to be overseas, but I mean now it's looking like he's going to have a long, fruitful NBA career if he keeps it up at this rate. And at this point, the Jazz are undefeated, first in total points, third best offensive rating, first in 3-pointers, third in 3-point percentage, and they have 15 first round picks that they're sitting on too.
Wow,
so they're looking pretty good. So that tweet some stat muse that just blows my mind. One more thing I want to talk about: Damian Lillard.
Mm-hmm.
This guy coming back from injury, 2 40-point games already. In addition, Jeremy Grant, our former guy with the Pistons, Troy, hits a game winner in LA against the Lakers. And in addition, they've had this young stud coming off their bench, Shaedon Sharpe, who's looked as advertised as this tantalizing young prospect. I really, really, really am glad to see Dame playing at this level. Mm-hmm. And now, to me, Portland's become one of the most interesting teams in the Western Conference, as far as I have no idea where they can end up. But if Dame can keep going at this rate, and if we truly have a healthy Dame for the first time in a couple of years, watch out.
Right. Yeah. No, he's a guy that I think a lot of teams and fans have written off just because of the Trailblazers' success or unsuccess the past couple of years. Well, I know, but he's a guy that got his team to the conference finals just a few years earlier. So I feel like he's a guy that we've shown all-star level caliber-ness to this whole time. And you split up a guy like CJ last year, but we've shown, well, he has shown himself to the league that he's a guy that can always be a number one option, that he is the face of the franchise in ways where the Trailblazers front office might not want to give up on him or blow the thing up already, because we know that he's capable of doing. So I feel like in some ways his best days could be still ahead of us in the right situation.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where Cone, I mean, like we say, it feels very similar to the Wizards in the sense of it's hard to tell what their true ceiling can be and how much it can really build this team to be a championship contender. Because as great of a player as Dame is, there's just so much talent in this league. However, I mean, I know even Bill Simmons after game 1 was like, I'm worried about Dame. He might not have his burst like he used to. That's not the case. This looks like Dame that we saw in his prime in the bubble, scoring 60+ points. I mean, if we truly have this type of Damian Lillard back, he could potentially be on an MVP caliber run. I mean, and with the extension he signed this offseason, I mean, it's one of those things where, like, Portland, you understand why they sign him, right? And I mean, I think at the very least, I think it gives Portland fans a lot of reasons to be hopeful, because Dame looks like he's not going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah, which is great to see, because, A very small part of me, most of me was like, we're going to see Dame. It's Damian Lillard. We know what we're going to see. But there's always that like small part of you that's like, what if he's never going to quite be that player again? And it's just great to see that right out of the gate. It took him one game to get back to it. Now he had back-to-back 40 pieces. He won Player of the Week. It's like he never left, and it's really cool to see. I'm really excited to see what Dame continues to bring to the table for Portland. They're 3-0 now. I still have a lot of questions about their roster, but all in all, I think they've done a great job of kind of showing me that they can be a bit better than maybe I thought they were going to be.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, a couple other, returns, obviously I think, John Wall seeing the effectiveness he's been playing with for the Clippers as well. I mean, I honestly feel like that year off was such a godsend for him because not only, to get back right and to get back in shape, it feels like he's recovered some of that burst that he didn't have in his first full season back with Houston, but also to have that year to like work on his game, change his focus and become a role player and, improve on his jump shot. Like I feel like, even though he didn't earn that starting role necessarily with the Clippers, he's still going to have a significant role if they're going to be what they want to be this season. And so if he keeps playing at the level that he is, they certainly have a good shot, but also Kawhi Leonard too. I
Yeah.
mean, in the limited play we've seen the Kawhi, he looks like the Claw.
He's back.
He's back. That's Kawhi. I mean, he's just remarkably consistent. The guy's the Terminator, man. Whatever you do to him, he's just going to rise up and he's going to be better somehow.
Yeah, and they've got the most ridiculous rotation. It's not even like even if Kawhi and Paul George don't play, they still can field a 10-man rotation of guys who most of them could start on other teams in the league. Like
and Paul George scored 40 points the other night. That's the crazy thing. We didn't even bring that up.
Yeah, the depth is ridiculous on that team. Kawhi Leonard is coming off the bench, and they're still winning games. They lost to Phoenix last night, but I believe that makes them 2-1 now on the season. They were my pick prior to the season to win the finals. If Kawhi Leonard continues to, and I like that they're kind of taking their time working him back, because if this Clippers team is as good as I think they can be, they don't need to win, enough games to be like a 2 seed or a 1 seed. Like they could go into it as like a 4 or a 5 seed and probably still win the whole thing because, their home court advantage isn't even that great anyways, playing in Laker town mainly. Although we'll see if people flip over, depending on how the season goes for them.
Yeah.
But like they're just completely stacked. If everything continues to look the way it does, if guys continue to stay healthy, which is always the big if for the Clippers, John Wall looks good. Their depth looks great. Paul George dropped 40, like you said. Kawhi Leonard looks like he could be back. This Clippers team is just completely loaded.
Yeah. I mean, Cone, to your point, you could make a legitimate case with this team that they could either make it to the finals, they could also get out in the first round. And that's the depth of this conference and the depth of this league, but also just speaks to how much that health and how much really, contains on that team just getting reps together. But, all in all, I think, there's been so much good basketball already. I know the Boston Celtics have looked phenomenal as well. I know the Philadelphia 76ers, as a recording, they just got their first win. And I know that, Joel Embiid, I think he has plantar fasciitis, some stuff with his feet that caused him to not get in the best condition going into the season. However, it looks like James Harden is back to playing at elite James Harden form, or at least
James Harden basketball. Yeah.
Yeah, man. And if that guy can stay healthy and keep playing at that pace, the Philadelphia 76ers are going to be dangerous too. That's for sure.
Yeah, they were actually my pick to win the East this year. So their 0-3 start has me sweating a little bit. Like you said, just got to win. I mean, they had some pretty good showings. They were close against the Bucks and the Celtics all the way through. Losing to the Spurs is another thing, but Devin Vassell is him, so not much you can do there. But yeah, getting this win over the Pacers in pretty convincing fashion. James Harden, like you said, has looked incredible outside of that one game against the Spurs where he kind of struggled. He's averaging, I think, because tonight he had, I just had his stat
I think he had 29 tonight.
Yeah, he had 29, 11, 9, and 2 steals on 55% shooting. And he took over right at the end to kind of close the game out. The Pacers made a little bit of a comeback. He dropped to Benedict Mathurin too, which is unfortunate because he's been playing so well. And now that's going to be all over Twitter. But yeah, James Harden really is kind of the key to things. If he keeps playing like this, I'm confident Joel Embiid is going to get back to Joel Embiid. It's going to take some time. He usually starts the season slow. But James Harden is a guy before the season. I made a bold predictions video and I said that don't sleep on Harden as a potential MVP candidate. I know he's playing alongside Joel Embiid, but he's a guy that I think if the Sixers are really good, I think Embiid will ultimately win the award out of the two of them. But Harden's playing phenomenally right now. He has had multiple games in a row where he's the reason they've been in it the whole time, and he was the main reason tonight why they got their first win. If Harden keeps playing like this, and he said in the offseason, he said, this is the first time I've been healthy in a little while. He kind of bet on himself by taking less money so the Sixers roster could bring in like PJ Tucker and Daniel House and improve a bit. It's looking like it's working out for him that he took that time to get healthy because he's been back to the James Harden of old, and seeing like him do that and Damian Lillard and Kawhi Leonard show flashes and John Wall looks good. It's really nice. Jamal Murray's had some flashes too when he's played. It's just really great to see all these players bouncing back in a big way. I wish Russ was part of that conversation, but we don't need to go back to the Lakers situation because we've talked about it enough. So
yeah, 100%. At a certain point, I feel like with my whole thing with the Lakers, at a certain point, it'll just be like their record will be so bad they won't even be worth talking about. So we could dive in and go with what's going wrong now, so we don't have to focus on them later. But I think one thing with Philly that I think's been particularly concerning for me in particular has been Matisse Thybulle just not being even a factor in the rotation. I believe he's played 3 of their 4 games so far, and he's played about 4 minutes total. I'm not sure if he played at all in their Pacers game tonight.
He played 2 minutes tonight.
He played 2 minutes, so he's up to 6 minutes this season now.
He might hit 10 by the end of the week.
Yeah, dude. That's arguably someone who was considered their best perimeter defender. And especially with how many issues they've been having on defensive lately, it's been crazy, for a team that's been predicated, on offense. It's early, but their offensive rating so far has been 25th in the league. Their defensive rating's been 20th. So, they definitely are going to have to get better on both ends of the court. I feel like defensively, if Matisse Thybulle could actually hit a shot, I feel like that would help a lot having him on a court. But, that's going to be the Philly situation. It's going to be really interesting to see how they evolve over the season. But Cone, brother, thank you so much for coming back on, man. Dude, this was so fun. I always love having you on the pod. We're definitely going to have you back on again at some point.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, but dude, please, for those that, for those that want to come find you, that want to see your beautiful face and all the stuff that you're doing, want to keep up with your content, where can people find you? Where can people go?
Yeah, so I'm on YouTube at 3cone, all spelled out. 3_cone on Twitter because I can't get it without it. Doing stuff at Enjoy B-Ball on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. We're doing a lot of cool stuff over there. The whole movement is basically built around getting away from the hot take culture that's kind of enveloped the NBA landscape, getting back to just enjoying the game of basketball for what it is, regardless of all these hot takes and what national media say. Just loving the game, appreciating the players without tearing other ones down. Super cool movement. Really happy to be a part of it. So that's at Enjoy B-Ball on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. And then I think that's it. And then, I just do stuff on the Bleach Report app. Sometimes you'll get notifications at the top of your phone from the BR app that say we're talking live about this NBA topic. And sometimes if you click on that, you might see my face. I did a playoff predictions stream for them last week, I believe it was. Time feels weird right now, but I believe it was last week. The NBA season has me all over the place. I've been, so for those of you that don't know, one of the main things I do on my channel is kind of nightly recaps of the games. And because I live on the East Coast and the West Coast games for some reason don't end till midnight or 12:30. And I record and I edit and I add clips and I post before I go to bed. I've been going to bed at 3:30, 4 a.m. these past few nights. So my brain is a little bit fried at the moment.
Dude, totally understand, man.
Okay.
I'm right there with you. It's that beginning of the season rush, dude. It's all the content all the time. It's unreal.
There's so much going on, bro. But it's been really fun. So I did playoff prediction stream over there on BR. As you can tell, basically anytime you make predictions, people aren't going to be happy. And when I can tell you the stream, they were so friendly, great time. No one was mad at all at any of my predictions.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they were all really loving that I had the Timberwolves as the second seed in the West. They were a big fan of that.
Oh, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. So yeah, and now I feel like I need to explain it on here before people get mad. I think they're a good regular season team. I don't think they're better than other teams in the West. I just think regular season wise, they're going to go really hard in that. That's my explanation.
I think that's a good take. I feel like they could be the Western Conference. I feel like that could be the Western Conference equivalent of the Atlanta Hawks in the 2010s, where like they're a danger, they're a threat to be like one of the top teams in the Eastern or like in their conference. But in the grand scheme of things, you don't really expect them to do anything in the playoffs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like that's the type of ceiling they have, where like they could be really competitive and look really good in the regular season, and then go right home in the first round. Like that's something that very possibly could happen.
Yeah, the West is crazy. And then I picked, like I told y'all, I picked the Clippers to win the finals. I picked Philly to win the East, and Philly started 0-3, and people weren't happy about that. It's predictions are always fun, but the streams over there, they've been a really good time. So if you see it at the top of your app, one time they said NBA expert 3-cone, and so I'm gonna put that. I'm gonna put that on my resume now. That they officially called me that. So yeah, sometimes you'll see me on there, and it's been really fun doing that. And it's been really fun. I appreciate y'all having me on here. Like you said, Sean, always great to be back. It's really fun to talk to y'all. Good to see you again, Troy, and keep doing what y'all are doing. Y'all are killing it on here. It's been super fun to keep up with y'all. And yeah, appreciate all of y'all for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe to the From Half Court channel, other podcast platforms, whatever y'all do. Make sure to rate 5 stars, whatever. It's been a while since I've done a podcast, but whatever you got to do to support, go ahead and support, because these guys are awesome.
I appreciate you, man. No, I'm going to be rooting for you all season. And I know I absolutely love the movement that you guys have and enjoy basketball. Like you said, it's just about the love of the game. And that's what we're about here too From Half Court. So anyway, we can spread that and have that type of positivity we're all about. And yeah, man, definitely excited to have you on back with your brother at some point and talk more hoops. I know as the season goes on, we're going to have to at least have you back on before the trade deadline, man. That's for sure.
Yeah, that'll be fun. Absolutely.
Oh yeah, because we got to get at least our 6-month cone check in going like, hey, what's going on here, man? But
yeah, we gotta get Ryan on so he can talk about how he feels about Embiid and Victor Wembanyama's fit together. Yeah, it's gonna be great.
100%, man. 100%. Well, Cone, like I said, you're one of my favorite people on the internet. I'm rooting for you hardcore this year. I'm expecting big things for you this year. I'm expecting
big things are coming, man.
Yeah, 100%. I think big things are coming for us here at this channel as well.
Absolutely.
Because this is From Half Court, where we talk all things Pistons, all things NBA, and we dive into it each and every week. If you like that, be sure you like this video, subscribe to the podcast. Generally joined by myself, Troy, and Jeff. Jeff is out this week celebrating his father's birthday. How dare he? And I was like, dude, choose your dad or Cone. And the nerve, he chose his dad.
Unbelievable. I can't believe this.
I know, right, Cone? Like,
how many times has his dad been on the pod?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, not even once. Not even once.
No loyalty. Unreal. Ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, my dad's turning 60. That's a big deal. Gosh, Jeff, whatever. But anyway, in all seriousness, thank you all so much for tuning in. We will catch you guys next time from Half Court. Be sure you subscribe.